Good evening. Welcome to New Horizons. If you have a mobile phone, if you'd like to put it on silent, please, thank you. Right, massive welcome for the first time here, Steve Johnson with Provable Predictions. Steve claims abilities of being able to see future events, most of which seem to occur. He decided to test himself and these abilities by recording them with a third party as they occurred, and then await the outcome. Tonight, Steve brings the third party in the form of the investigator of all things paranormal, Steve Meera, who has recorded many of these predictions and is in possession of the documents to prove the claims. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome both Steves.
Everybody hear me okay? Good, good. Fantastic microphones these, aren't they? Wow. Okay, so most people that have seen me lecture before, I'll normally come along and talk to you about the work that I'm involved in regarding the paranormal, ufological, and I often talk about the organisation MAPIT. Tonight's a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about another organisation that I started up in 1996 called SEP, the Scientific Establishment of Parapsychology. And basically that was formed principally to deal with those type of cases which you might refer to as innate, people who have extrasensory perception, different types, and to actually deal with the academics, deal with the scientific establishments around the country. Now, why we don't do this under the heading of MAPIT is simply because the scientific establishments such as Edinburgh Parapsychological Department, Herefordshire, John Hope University in Liverpool and a number of others, they won't deal with people that investigate UFOs, funny enough, or even other strange things like cryptozoology and other things like that. They'd like simply to be academic. So we formed an organisation in 1996 specifically to just deal with establishments, not just in this country but worldwide. For this is an unusual story, and it's been a long 10 years research and investigation has taken place to bring us to this point. And we only started talking about this last year, and since so, it's basically rocketed because there's so many scientific establishments that are quite fascinated with the subject of precognition and trying to prove and trying to move that scientific investigation on. In other words, advancing the subject in parapsychology. It's a little stagnant. We do need to sort of look at the field of ESP and try and come up with new methods and ideas of why and how to investigate the phenomena. Simply doesn't always work when you take somebody out of the home and put them in an environment such as scientific environment, like a controlled room at a parapsychology department, and click your fingers and say, let's have it now. We want to know now. Let's see it, demonstrate it. It doesn't always work like that. And for anybody who's ever had some form of extrasensory perception, and I believe a lot of people probably have had at least one experience in their life, you know, it's usually quite sporadic, and it's very, very difficult to just click your fingers on demand and obtain this information. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about a gentleman called Steve Johnson. First of all, let me just explain what precognition is, for those that don't quite understand what that is. Precognition is acquiring knowledge, also called future sight. It's also referred to as second sight. It's called a number of things depending on which TV show you watch these days. Premonition tends to be referred to those people who have emotions that are part of their experience, such as they feel a dread or they feel pain or something associated to the experience, or an incident that's taking place simultaneously, such as they have a vision of their mother who was in an accident, and she was in fact in an accident at that very moment they had that experience. The top one being precognition, which is one we're going to be talking about, is about things that take place in the future, but within your timeline, in other words, within your life. Anything beyond that, we start getting into prophets and prophecies and predictions, you know, which we've heard of. There's something also referred to as retrocognition, down at the bottom, which is also postcognition, and that's about people who claim to have experiences about things that they shouldn't have known from a previous time, such as some children and it was an 8-year-old boy in, I think it was Middlewich, in about 7 or 8 years ago, who fluently knew Morse code, and he hadn't been taught this. And when he went under test procedures, the people that did, I mean, Morse code is a bit, you know, it's not used anymore, but some people still have knowledge about it. Put him to the test, he was spot on, and he had no idea how he knew that. So, could he be obtaining information prior to his own life? And that's what we might refer to as post-cognition or retrocognition. Some people even go as far as past life experiences. So, okay, so where we go with precognition? Well, we all heard about prophets, haven't we? You know, Nostradamus is always the one that comes to mind, isn't it? Do you know there are always programs on Nostradamus? And if anybody's ever actually read a book on Nostradamus, I encourage you to read another one, and just verify the fact that it isn't just me that notices the fact that these books tend to be all different, and that Nostradamus said so many different things, and so many different variations, and which one is the right one, which one's the truth, you know, and this is where it gets very, very difficult, and it's the same for TV shows. So we say, well, who are the best 10 well-known prophets? Okay, so if you punch it into Google or a number of other search engines, you'll come up with a different type of top 10. And you tend to get a varied, you know, they do vary a little bit, but the most common are the top 10 I'm going to show you now. And this gentleman, a German who was in the 1950s, made predictions of the Third World War. Now what's really interesting is that people thought he was a prophet, more so at that time than now. In parapsychological terms, when parapsychologists sit around the table and talk about prophets, you know, we tend to have a bit of a grin on our faces, a raised eyebrow, as to really, is there really precise information about this? The information that he provided wasn't plentiful. He talked about Third World War taking place, and unfortunately, under the circumstances, when parapsychologists look at the claims he made, we pretty much drew up, no, he wasn't a prophet. He didn't have enough demonstrative information to call him a prophet, and yet he's up there at number 10. Hildegard von Bingen, a nun from the 12th century. In one prediction, it appears that she was referring to the destruction of the United States. She predicted famine, earthquakes, tidal waves, devastation, world floods and plagues. Well, we're all having them. We're all having them. So is it really, we can say, okay, yeah, she's right. Well, is she? Because, you know, of countries around the world for many, 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 many years have had these devastations taking place. So it's not really hard to come up with that idea, is it? Really. So is there enough information to say that she was, in fact, a prophet coming in at number 9? No. Parapsychological terms suggest that such prophecies can be problematic, especially when they have not yet taken place. It is very easy to predict disasters without time, date references. Time, dates, references. This is what's important. This is what I'm going to specify tonight. How important it is about times, dates, places, names. These things are really important. You can't be vague about these things. I'm not saying that people can't have some accuracy, but to actually give them the term and accredited by a parapsychology unit, which is very rare, we definitely have to have some form of evidence. Baba Vanga came in at number 8. Born in 1911, died in 1996. A herbalist, alleged mystic, who made many predictions of the future. Among the many predictions, she claimed now this is quite an unusual one, in 4,000, this is the year, 4,599, the year, man would achieve immortality, and that less than 100 years later, he would begin assimilating with the aliens we meet on hundreds of planets we will have populated. Okay? Some people even argue to point that that's already taken place. You know, I've met a few people who believe that. However, she also goes on to say also in changing the Earth's orbit in 2023. Now, some of us will probably still be around in 2023, so hold that thought and we'll wait and see. Now, the problem for me is that Earth's orbit's always changing. Yeah. It's constantly on the move. We hear things in the news, we hear from science establishments that there's this slight shifting on the Earth. Hey, we had an earthquake not long back, and that shifted the axis of the Earth, made our day something like 1.7 of a second less because of the quake. So there's always changes taking place, so it's a constant thing. Curiously, she predicted the beginning of World War III in 2010. If it's a world war as we depict a world war, like World War I and II, then we haven't got enough evidence to say it's actually happened. Again, problem with this one is the fact that these things haven't happened yet. We're a long way from 4,599. We're still considerably away from 2023. Yeah. 2010 has gone by, and really, can we say a World War III has happened? Is there enough information to call a prophet? Not believe so. The third secret of Fatima, that comes in at number 7. Now people have heard about the Fatima secrets, and of course little bits and bobs have been put out about the secret of Fatima, and the third one, but not the whole information pertaining to it. On June the 26th, 2000, the well-known third secret of Fatima was revealed, apparently. The secret revealed that the Pope being killed in a city, and a city in ruins, and the Pope would stop teaching the Catholic faith. I can't imagine the Pope stopped teaching the Catholic faith. Something significantly serious has to go wrong for the Pope to stop teaching the Catholic faith. These are people that live by that code and die by that code, and have done for thousands of years. There's still not enough evidence to say even Fatima, that little bit of information from the third secret of Fatima is coming through. Again, can we say it's a form of prophecy? Not enough. Whatever the third secret of Fatima is in its proper content, there's no evidence the predictions has been actually revealed. Ursula comes in at number 6. Now this was quite interesting. Here's some of the more interesting prophecies that she made. Now let's have a look. A carriage without horses will go. She did this in rhymes and poetry. Disasters fill the world with woe. In London, Primrose Hill shall be in the centre hold a bishop's see. Around the world men's thoughts will fly, quick as a twinkling of an eye. And water shall great wonders do, how strange and yet it shall come true. For in those wondrous far off days, the women shall adopt a craze to dress like men and trousers wear, and to cut off all their locks of hair. They'll ride astride with brazen brow as witches do on broomsticks. Now, there's some interesting quotes there. Taking in consideration the year this was made, predicted. Now, we're talking a few hundred years, so, you know, could she have been touching on something about how a lot of women dress nowadays? It's sometimes very different. Especially in some places in towns, I tell you, it is very difficult to know the difference. And is it a bit of a foresight? Well, yeah, there is something interesting there. Is it enough to say she's a prophet? Well, to do that, you have to have consistency. In other words, it's not just a one-off wonder. She's got to keep doing it over and over and over again, and you've got to keep getting target hits over and over again for her to say, yes, she's a prophet. Has she given enough information to say that? Unfortunately not. Not enough consistency assumed accurate data when researched by parapsychological units. Mitar lived in 1829 to 1899, came in at number 5. He talks about related to Serbia in the 1930s and 40s and World War II. Men will build a box within, quite an interesting quote, within will be some kind of gadget with images. A box with some type of images. Sounds like a television, doesn't it? Taking into consideration 1829 to 1899. So yeah, some interesting points there. But again, the problem we've got with Mitar is that when we actually researched it, we found that he didn't actually say that. He said something completely different. And what has happened over the years is that people have adopted it and changed it to fit, to make it stand out more, to make it better, more unbelievable. And then unfortunately, there was not enough accurate information from the original writings from him to say that that's what he said. And this is what we get with books like Nostradamus. They vary from book to book. Robert Nixon was an unusual character from Cheshire, England, 15th century. Apart from obviously he was a bit of a madman apparently, he was a little bit crazy. And he mumbled, but he did talk about thou shalt mutilate. Oh, sorry, wait a minute. The wary eagle shall to shelter an island in the sun retire, where leaves and herbs grow fresh and green. There shall he meet a lady fair. This is believed to be the prophecy of Napoleon. Believed to be the prophecy. Now, that's a bit of a far. You have to stretch that a little to fit, unfortunately, and that's how things are nowadays. He did also go on to mention about, quote, all sorts will have chimneys in their mouths. Now some people say, oh, he's referring to cigarettes. But let's just take into note that, 15th century, people had pipes. People did have pipes. Pipes have been going on for a long, long, long time. So were those chimneys in mouths? It's all down to how we depict what the phrases mean. Again, is there enough information to say he's an accurate prophet? Unfortunately, no. This is the problem with parapsychology. We look for we want to find the information, we want to find consistency, and unfortunately we get little bits of really good stuff, but not enough information constantly. Sorry, a question.
It wasn't until the early 16th century that tobacco came over to West to Europe.
That's right. The Red Indians were introduced to Spanish conquistadors with them.
1492, so you say in the late 15th century, didn't bring it before then.
Not into the country, no, but it were known. Pipes were known. Yeah, modern culture was brought into the country at a later date, but historical documentation was brought in first from other countries, just as the Egyptians. The Egyptians were smoking things like that as well. Joseph Smith, if anybody who's Mormon will know about Joseph Smith, he made a alleged prediction in regards what the tale of the white horse, and in regard to the Constitution of the American Constitution, and that the Mormons would save their day, in a sense of speaking. And this prediction is actually in the Mormon Bible. It hasn't come to pass. So I always ask a question when they knock on my door, because I like to have a chat with them now and again. And of course, they don't really know how to question that, how they answer that one, but it's they say it's a prediction, and yet it's not happened yet. So you can't really have that before it's happened. Again, not constituted to be a prophet. St. Nicholas came in at number 2, 5th century monk, disciple of St. John, made prophecies relating to the 20th century. He says that after the year 1900, people's appearances would change. Now this is interesting. People's appearances would change up to 1900s. And it will be impossible to distinguish, again, we've heard this before, men from women due to their shamelessness in dress and style of hair. And that time of the morals and the traditions of Christians and the church will change. People will abandon modesty and dissipation with rain. Falsehood and greed will attain great proportions, and the woe of those who pile up treasures. Lust, adultery, homosexuality, secret deeds and murder will rule the society. At that time, men will also fly through the air like birds and descend to the bottoms of the sea like fish. Interesting, isn't it? You could say, well, yeah, he could be talking about the industry. He could be talking about flying machines. He could be talking about submarines there. He could be talking about the general, how society has changed, how homosexuality and secret deeds and adultery, murder, all those things have come more prominent over the years. Could say yes, he could have been a prophet, but did he have consistency? These are what you might refer to is, he didn't say all this in one go, by the way. The little bits that are taken from that year and that year and that year and put together to make him sound so fantastic. But when you actually look at where those bits go back, it was one line and amongst pages and pages and pages that's been picked out. And you look at that one line and you think, okay, it's one line. So is there enough consistency over we're talking probably about 1,800 pages there to get 6 lines of really interesting stuff. Not enough consistency. I'm saying if people did have this ability, it was perceived slightly different in many years ago. Nowadays, you talk to parapsychologists and say, well, prophets only exist once they die, just like good artists do. And the thing is that the information that we have now, we have to wait and see if it takes place in the future. And if so, then we have to calculate the odds of them obtaining that information. Consistency is a wonderful thing, and we don't get that very often. Of course, number one is Nostradamus. You know, he'd probably be one of the richest guys on the planet if he was still alive. The amount of books that have been sold, the amount of TV shows that have been put around the world is absolutely incredible. In fact, I guarantee at least between 2 and 5 different documentaries will be shown and produced every year. And the books still come. And you think, well, you know, once you've read it, what else is there to read? Well, don't worry, because you can go and pick another one up and there's a whole new different type of take on it in another book. And this is the problem. The interpretations are thousands and thousands of interpretations, but only one guy wrote them. And the thing is that are they taken from the original scriptures that he put down? That's the question. Well, let's see. If you look at Nostradamus, and he is supposed to be the world's best known prophet, let's take his top 10 predictions as an example. Okay? Prediction number 1. Now, I'm not going to go through it all, but the top part is what the prediction was. He said, these are from the original scriptures, volcanic fire from the centre of the earth will cause trembling around this new city. The 2 great rocks will make war from a long time, and the east easter will redden a new river. From that, we get 9/11. People say the two rocks are the 2 towers. And do you know what? As you read more, I've even come across websites, you know, which have given mention to will create trembling in the towers of the city of New York. It's even changed from New City to New York just to make it fit. This is the problem. People add things, it changes, and unfortunately you get further and further away from what was originally put down on paper. So that's debunked. We can't say he was referring to 9/11 there. Another one was regarding Hitler. Nostradamus predicted Hitler. Well, you know, he actually said Histler, which was a river, you know, which was known to Nostradamus at that time. And of course it's got twisted as into Hitler and the prediction of the Second World War, and then more and more gets added as time goes on. So really, when parapsychologists sat down, this hasn't been done recently. This was done 30 odd years ago. Parapsychologists around the world got together and said, okay, let's put all the books we've got on the table, put all the paper we've got on the table and say, let's see, do prophets exist? Do they have an ability? Is it real? And they looked at it, and then one by one they started discrediting and debunking, and unfortunately there wasn't a lot left. Again, he mentioned lost, found, hidden far, so long a time, a pastor will have honoured as a demigod. Before the moon finishes in its full period, he will be dishonoured by other winds. Now, again, there's a problem with regard to pastor and pasteur, because it means 2 completely different things. And again, they got twisted around to make something fit and be recognisable for people to say, oh yes, it has meaning. It only has meaning when we have to change it. Again, there was another one that was debunked. Another one, he talked about the young lion will overcome the old man, one on the field of battle in a single combat. He will put out his eyes in a cage of gold, 2 fleets won, then to die a cruel death. People often claim that Nostradamus was talking about King Henry II of France. And so, yes, he was talking about that, but then it can fit to so many things. What you've got to do is consider how many other things this fits with. And if you can find some, then you've got to question, you know, how do we know he's talking about that singular event? Again, not enough information to say that it was another prediction. And there was another one debunked. And they go on. Prediction number 5. I'm not going to go through all these step by step, guys. It's going to drive you potted in. Prediction number 5 was another one. It didn't add up. There was not enough information there. It had been twisted and changed to make it fit to current books, which are on sale even now. You can go pay $12.99 in the shop for a Nostradamus book. There was one that came out last year with these quotations in and quatrains. And the problem is that they're not accurate. So basically, it's just like reading the newspaper. It's entertaining. Is there any factual stuff in there? Do you believe what you read in the newspapers these days? Prediction number 6 was again well talked about near the gates of the city. There will be 2 scourges like of which was never seen, famine, plague, people put out in steel, crying out a great immortal God for relief. And again, there's twists and turns in regarding trying to make it fit. People often talk about, they're talking about a nuclear bomb there, and they're talking about how to make it fit in modern day. And of course, the nuclear propulsion and nuclear power is a modern thing, even though that we did have something that took place in 1908 in Tunguska, but we won't go there. Prediction number 7. A lot of people claim that he was talking about the Great Fire of London here. Oh, he was talking about the Great Fire of London. And of course, you know, when researchers went through it all, it worked out that the Great Fire of London was apparently down to a complete accident. You know, some people believe that it was actually put on fire on purpose to get rid of the plague and the rats and so on and so forth. But again, a play on words and a play on numbers and dates to make it fit. Prediction number 8. We can go on and on and on and on. I've only picked out the top 10. We talked about regarding Cromwell. Of course, they were wrong about that statement because Cromwell was obviously a Protestant. He was said to have, they were suggesting that he didn't have a faith. An inaccurate comment again. Prediction number 9. Again, King Henry II of France. Henry had 13 children, and of course they were suggesting that that there was a difference in numbers to make it fit, and of course when you research it, the numbers didn't add up because obviously King Henry had 13 children, and of course it just would not fit with what Nostradamus was trying to say. So the problem for us is that we can't find the accurate information and the consistency with it. And number 10. These go on and on. There are, I believe, 518 different ones we can pick out. We've just picked out 10. And unfortunately, there isn't a lot to go on any of them. So, you have to question, okay, so did they ever exist? Did prophets exist? Well, the biggest problem for us is that we wouldn't know until they die, because then it's only becomes a prophet. So we have to drop to precognition. Does precognition exist? Well, I assume most people have had the phenomenon of déjà vu. I know I have. And when people have those experiences, some people refer to them as the subtlest form of precognition, or premonition in some cases, because sometimes it's happening right at that event, right at that time. They don't seem to be controlled, do they? And when we try and think, we've done this, trying to think what's going to come next, we don't quite get it until it's happened, and then we go, I knew that was going to happen. And that's the problem. It has to happen. People have also said, well, you know, if precognitives may have been able to stop things from happening. If somebody had a vision of a sinking liner, say the Titanic, would they have been able to stop it? Well, this has been a debatable subject for quite some time in parapsychology. We don't believe so, because we believe if somebody had a vision of the Titanic sinking and knew the captain personally and said, okay, don't go, and he doesn't, and all those people that perished survived, then we could say, well, how did she have the precognition of an event? Because the event didn't take place. So we end up with a paradox theory, you know? You can't have a precognitive image of something that doesn't take place because you'd already stopped it before it happened. It gets very, very difficult. You know, it's one of those Doctor Who type things. Yeah. So we can demonstrate the fact that, you know, we don't really get a lot of information regarding precognitives and premonitions. Okay, so where do we stand as scientific establishment of parapsychology? What is required? This is what's required nowadays. After statistical analysis, the results must show significant below chance factor odds. In other words, you know, what's the chance of you finding it? What's the chance of something happening? The results must be consistent, so to undergo test procedures. In other words, we don't just want 1 or 2 or 3. We want consistency. We want to be able to bench test it over and over and over again. Now, unfortunately, science hasn't progressed very much. That's our best way on, our best method of testing, is to continually do it. And over a period of time, the conclusions are reached. The systematic approach and methodology of the results must be replicatable. In other words, they must be able to happen over and over again in the same method, in the same way, without changing anything. The results must be time-stamped and accurately collated and documented. Now that's lucky for us, we can do that very easily for you nowadays, simple through time-stamped secure emails. That's, they're used in court of law. If it's good enough for the court, it's good enough for us. And that's a really good method of doing it nowadays. All data must be double-checked, demonstrating target hits and accuracy. Target hits are when they get things right. And the accuracy is how much accuracy do they have on getting them right. Are they just getting it right or they're bang on? Psychoanalysis of the actual subject even must be carried out before pre-conclusive stage. In other words, we have to find out what these people are like as well. Do they have some form of condition? We've heard about people who have had severe injuries to the head and developed amazing extrasensory perception. We've had people who have had near-death experiences and come away with some type of new zest for life and sometimes an unusual extrasensory perception. I believe the abilities lies in us all, and sometimes, we're kind of a bit dormant. But I think in humanity, we have these abilities. And I think as time goes on, as humanity is progressing, more and more of these unique cases are becoming known worldwide. It could be simply that humanity is developing. We're moving on, we're changing, we're developing as in time. The species is evolving, in a sense of speaking. And I don't normally go down Darwinism, but all data must be logged, demonstrating statistical analysis results, because those have got to be proven and shown and sent around to different places. And all theories must be first considered before conclusive stage. Are they cheating? Is somebody in on it? If we change the location, if we change the time, change the date, change the place, does it make a difference? People can pull off some fantastic hoaxes these days, absolutely fantastic ones. So we have to completely try and rule all them out as well before we even reach any conclusive stage. So then we come to Steve Johnson. Now, Mr. Johnson contacted SCP approximately, it's actually just over 10 years now. He claimed to have precognitive dreams, visions, dreams of events take place in the future within his lifetime. He was immediately placed onto the scientific monitoring program by SCP. Each and every event is sent to SCP via Yahoo email servers. And people actually have asked, I've had the question, we've had the question many times, emails can be manipulated. So it came really handy when we got a documentation back from Yahoo mail servers themselves, stipulating that they couldn't be changed, time-stamped. It's very important. Every event is time-stamped and date-logged through Yahoo email servers. Mr. Johnson also, on occasion, demonstrates other forms of extrasensory perception. Well, when you have somebody who's so gifted in precognitive information, most of the time it stands to reason that they might have other abilities. A little bit of something else, a little bit of something else. For us, though, we focus on the precognition because we look for evidence. Hundreds of events have been collated demonstrating evidence to his ability. Hundreds, and I mean hundreds. He has influenced the lives of many people. Some are very well known in the media. I'm sure Steve may mention a few of them to you when he comes on. And it's quite amusing how we became acquainted when I first talked with Mr. Johnson when he first rang me, and I'm sure he'll tell you about that story because it's quite an interesting one. These are some of the information that's been sent out to scientific establishments around the world. You note the date was in 2004 when she was originally sent. I've been a parapsychologist for a number of years and received many claims such as of the phenomena. These incidents are usually far and few between and inconsistent. When I first discussed such incidents with Mrs. Johnson, I was sceptical but objective. Rarely does such a phenomena rear its face, so often tempting test procedures. The most important thing to do whilst undertaking an investigation into claims of precognition is logging entries such as dates, times, events, etc. First, we collate and collect information from the subjects whilst asking them to keep a visual record of experiences, and then later look at the bridges, or you could say target hits in a sense, that might tie up in an event, such as bridges are important. These are referred to as target hits. In a short time we have known the subject, we have shared many unusual coincidences, which we have. Well, when's a coincidence stop being a coincidence? You know, that's the question, isn't it? Because everyone says, oh, it's a coincidence. You know, some of them are so profound, aren't they? And people out there have all these strange, profound coincidences, and you think, well, you look at the statistical chance factors of that, sometimes you think, well, that alone is unusual. And when you continue to have them, they become even more unusual. Those might say that they say more than chance factor. This is also accompanied by synchronicity of events, dates, times, etc. This got my attention, as you can well imagine. After careful consideration, we undertook the investigation, only to find regular precognitive hits within a few weeks. In fact, I can make claim to 2 experiences the subject had, which we took place the very next day or so. To the date, we have logged almost 12 months of such claims and note many consistent bridges connecting to these events. Now, that information was sent out to pretty much every parapsychological department I'm aware of. That was in 2004. By 2007, I had the Parapsychological Association for the United States, the largest parapsychological unit in the world, headhunted me for me to join them. The data that they've received is the same data that we have. It's it can be retested, there's evidence there, and they're quite taken back by it. It's like a new step, in a new direction as to how these things happen. We went on Mr. Johnson. The subject is an average gentleman of slightly above average intelligence. He'll kill me for that one. He's a devoted family man and takes time to enjoy things. However, he has come to understand and incorporate this psychic intrusion into his normal lifestyle. That's my choice of words, by the way. Those that know Mr. Johnson will speak the same story, how he's considered above average in knowledge of future events and his knowledge of the incidents beyond his conscious reach, often referring to him as weird or deep. This is the lingo nowadays, isn't it? As a philosophy of giving talent. Mr. Johnson is not seeking to show his lies. He never has. In fact, you know, the times we've tried to get him to do things and he just wouldn't do it. You know, we've done a number of radio shows, we've done a number of lectures now. But most people have, you know, they've asked 5, 6, 7 times sometimes to get him, and he often turns them down. Of course, there are many reasons why he does that. Goes on to say, Mr. Johnson is not seeking to show his lights, needs to inform and assist as much as possible regarding probable oncoming acts of terrorism, disasters, etc. Mr. Johnson is a roller coaster rider of wonder and can easily demonstrate his skills in other areas of extrasensory perception. It is my opinion that the subject, Mr. Johnson, does demonstrate his accessibility in obtaining precognitive information via visual stimuli, lucid dreaming, and subconscious interpretation of thoughts. Such claims are open to testing and information obtained ourselves. The scientific standard of parapsychology can be used to validate this above, and we have done. Our protocols assess conditions used to officially log and document all clients' claims, and then later date to look for the target hits and assess their accuracy. Such clients often fall into the 3 to 20% range. That's interesting. Most clients fall into 3 to 20% accuracy scale. And much of their information is usually deemed non-accurate and unnecessary to the study program. However, over a short period of time, Mr. Johnson demonstrates a consecutive hits with an outstanding 60 to 95% accuracy. A figure, I'll be honest with you, I have never seen that figure in I've been in this subject for 31 years. As a parapsychologist, I haven't come across those figures before, so this is quite new to me 10 years ago. Seen before my profession. As you can well imagine, the importance of logging Mr. Johnson's claims became higher priority, and since 2004, he has accumulated a large file of documented hits. some of which are so profound due to the incorporation of unlikely synchronicities and coincidences. On one particular occasion, Mr. Johnson foretold an event 24 hours before national news delivered the information to the general public, and that was in this country. To date, Mr. Johnson continues to laugh in the face of scientific improbability, and I don't mean it, he actually does. It's really, really annoying. And he does, and it's a challenge to us to try and find how this works. And we've accepted the fact that obviously, you know, he has an ability. Now the next stage is that how does that ability work? Where does it come from? What generates it? What causes it? You know, is it certain times? Is it something to do with the biological system, the chemical system in our bodies? Is it something neurological, psychological, physiological? Lots of questions to come. The SCP are pleased to provide evident data of support of Mr. Johnson's unique capabilities of request. SCP continue to monitor, collate, document, and today, truly gifted individual demonstrates an ability that continues to challenge us as parapsychologists today. Now, this is still going on. I mean, that's dated 2005. We're now 2014, and we're no nearer. We've got a huge mountain and mountains of data. In fact, it's just another, when these happen, and they do happen regularly, it's just another stone added to the mountain we've already got. To finish off there, it is important to remind you about the chance factors involved, just these 3 listed accounts. Mr. Johnson has on an occasion given mention to dates when he believes such incidents may occur only for them to prevail on that given date. Specific information has also been obtained in regards pictorial image of the event as if he had seen the incident or had knowledge of a broadcasted incident which was yet to take place. Each correct hit for each statistic increases the chance factor tremendously. Thus, some of his most precise information can only be calculated at astronomical odds, and in doing so, forces us to look at the statistics mathematically and conclude a result which amounts to a huge decimal equation. Putting it bluntly, he has better odds informing us that a meteorite will enter Earth's atmosphere tomorrow and hit a blue-coloured Ford Focus whilst it was parked outside Jodrell Banks Planetarium. And that is simply the truth. In all, we continue to monitor his profound ability in hope of finding some form of pattern, neurological, psychological condition that may advance the subject in parapsychology. This is the idea, is advancing the subject, and this is advancing the subject. Okay, so, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to bring him on now, and I have to start off by just saying, he doesn't refer to himself as a psychic, or a spiritualist, nor a medium, or a sensitive. He doesn't converse with spirit guides, such as Thomas, Sam, or even Running Bear. He doesn't converse with angels, demons, fairies, aliens, nor God. He will not predict lottery numbers, football results, interpret auras, or read your tea leaves and join the break in your cup. So don't ask him to, please. So he will, however, answer any intelligent questions. Mr. Johnson does not know how or why he has these unique abilities. People often ask him that. He hasn't got the answers. He doesn't know. And when he asks me, all I could say is, well, why not you? Someone has to have these abilities. And as to quote Mr. Johnson, I find dead people dead boring. So let's give him a warm welcome, Steve Johnson.
Hello. I keep telling him, you're looking for your rational explanation, you're wasting your time. And this is a guy that's just told you, like, I've got slightly above average intelligence, but he don't seem to get that. You're wasting your time looking for it, big man, because you won't find it. Above average intelligence, you're the Man United fan. So, the best way I can go about this is to tell you about me, really, first of all. And I'll try and be as quick as I can because there's a lot of information that I've got to try and get out to you. If I was to bring everything that's logged with Steve over the last 10 years, I could come here every Monday for the next 10 years and do a different presentation every time. It's that prolific. So, I was born in Coventry in 1968, youngest of 4, my sister's 15 years older than me, 2 older brothers, one's 5 years older, one's 3 years older, and we lived on a council estate. And there we are, Byron Avenue, 3-bedroom council estate. We were quite poor. My dad was never around, he was in the pub a lot. So that meant me and my brothers would tear arsing around the estate. It was a great place to live. We used to congregate there on that wall, and the whole of that wall was covered with kids. Because on the council estate, round there you either played football or you were a boxer, and a lot of the families had 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, so there was loads of us, and we were a pain in the arse, but it was good fun. And then I was about 8, I think, and I knew even then that I was different to all my friends. My thoughts were far too profound for somebody so young. You know, while my mates were playing sort of cowboys and Indians, I used to sit and gaze at the sky for hours. I just used to lie in the garden looking at the sky, or at night I used to get out of bed and look at the moon and just gaze at it, and I was away with the fairies a lot of the time. And I used to write a lot of poetry, but I lived on a council estate with boxers, so you don't tell them things like that. As they use you as a punch bag. So I just got on with it. But I was a big lad when I was a kid, so I never got bullied or anything. I had a great time on that council estate, we had loads of fun. And so then fast forward that to when I was 14, my mum got ill. My sister had left home by then because she's 15 years older than me, she married and stuff. She had mum got cancer. And me being the way I was, I took it upon myself to take care of her. And because my dad was always pissed. So my dad sort of moved back in because he never spent the nights at our house, but he came back because my mum was ill. And my brothers and my mum and my dad were of the opinion that we should maybe put her into a hospice. I says, I'll look after her. It was easy, she was my mum, it was a problem. And that was her bedroom there at the top left, with the car outside, in that room there. So I nursed her till she died, but it was easy. It was easy to do. And me being me, I was such a profound lad. I was 15, I had a girlfriend, I was drinking beer, I was smoking fags, I was bored of school. The lads of my own age were getting on my nerves, my mates. I was like 15, but I was kind of 22 or 23 in my head, you know. So I couldn't wait to get out of school, finish school, because I'd had enough of that. So then I left school, and by this time my brothers left home, and when my mum died, I was kind of, that's pretty final. Then this life malarkey and this death malarkey, that's it then. You have your time here and you go. Okay. So I got on with my life, got a job, and I was working in a big double glazing factory in Coventry. And my mates now were sort of 23, 24, 25, and I was far more comfortable with them than I was with lads from my own age. And I was really into music, football, big Liverpool fan. I used to try and feel quite a lot every Saturday. I used to go to nightclubs, and it was just being a teenager, birds, booze, loud music, and football was great. And my dad moved up the road to a flat, just up here up the road. And I moved in with him. I was about 19, I think. I had a car as well by then. I was driving around in a funky new car. I was working in a double glazing workshop. I was the boss. So I was getting on with it, you know. And I was working 6 days a week. And then when I was just before my 21st, I met Steph, my wife. And on our second date, I said to her, you're going to marry me and we're going to have 3 kids. And I want them before I'm 30. And she said, confident then, yeah? I was a bit drunk. I went, yeah. And that happened. So then, I got her to, because she was living in Canterbury at the time, but she'd come back to Bedford to visit her friends. And I said, come and live with me in the front bedroom in my dad's flat. And she did. And then we moved out, was it 91? Was it 90? What long was it after we got out of there? We bought a funky flat across town. So I was now living the sort of place, you know, when you go penny for the guy when you're a kid, knocking on the posh estate. I was now living on one. I was like, hey, I'm posh now. And she had a job, I had a job, we had plenty of money, we used to eat out every night, and it was great. We had a great time, didn't we? And then, I'll go back to that, I'll come on to that in a second, sorry. So we lived just up here, and then we moved away, we moved across town, we got this trendy flat, and I'm going to work. And then, just after Christmas '92, I'd got my dad in a care home by now because he was on his own in that flat and he was drinking himself to death and it was obvious he was going to die. He didn't need to be psychic to see that. So I says, Dad, you can't live like this. I don't want to walk in here and find you dead one day with a load of beer cans around you. I've got him put into a care home, me and my sister. And I went to see him just after Christmas. I could see the spark had gone from his eye. So I come home and I said to Steph, me being me, blunt as it gets, I said, Steph, we need to get married because my dad's going to die. And she went, oh, okay, is that an invitation, a proposal? I said, well, it's the best one you're going to get out of me. It's obvious we're going to be together forever, let's just get on with it. So she says, okay. So we arranged to get married, and I was only 24, I think, wasn't I? And in about 3 weeks, we arranged it all. She had a white dress and stuff, and so because I wanted my dad there, I wanted my dad to see me getting married. And I was right, we got married on January 30th, and on March 17th, my dad died. So, you know, I expected, I wasn't close to my dad anyway. I knew he was gonna, but at least he saw us get married. So I carried on, going back to work and stuff. Steph was at work every day, whatever. We just got married. And then I had a dream. This would be the first prophetic dream I could ever recall with hindsight now. And in this dream, I was walking down this road with my dad. And I'm walking along, oh, Dad, Steve, okay, yeah, I'm good, how are you? We're walking down the street, and there's a front door behind that car. The door was open, and I got to just to here, and I could hear crying, and I said, Dad, I've got to go. And in this dream, I was kind of 15 again. So I ran down the street, I ran in the door, upstairs into that room there, that's where my mum was ill. But when I got into the room, Steph was there giving birth to a little girl. So I caught this girl in my arms, and I'm like, oh, that's groovy. And I gave her back to Steph. Come back down the stairs, and opened the door, my dad's still there. I said, Dad, I'm my dad. That was mad. And he went, oh, okay, good. So we walked up the street, and I was thinking, oh, my dad, that's God. That little girl was mine, that was Steph giving birth. My dad said, Steve, I've got to go. And he went. And I woke up, and I thought, that ain't weird. So I got up, because I used to get up about 5, 6 o'clock. Trips over the bleeding cat again, like I used to every morning when I was trying to get my boots on, rubbing around my legs. Get out of it. Go out to my van, de-ice it, off a chug to work, working away, whatever. Just got home from work that night, said to the missus, I had a weirdest dream last night. You were giving birth. She ain't pregnant, are you? She says, no, we'd only been married a couple of 3 months, hadn't we? Next thing, she tells me she's pregnant. I said, what? I'm pregnant. Okay. So I thought, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to be a dad. And that dream, I just forgot about it, just dreaming it. And then, the following year, on March the 15th, Steph went into labour with Bernice, my eldest. She's 20 now. And that just so coincidentally, Steph lost her mum, and she too was 15 like I was when I lost my mum. So, and she went into labour with our first daughter on the anniversary of when her mum died, 15th of March 1986, and she was giving birth to our daughter on the 15th of March 1994. It was a long labour, so Bernice was born on the 16th, so I had this daughter in my arms. The following day, I got a 1-day-old daughter, and it was a year to the day since my dad had passed away. I was like, that's a bit weird. So anyway, I was still these profound thoughts, but as I was a man now, so I was starting to change, reluctantly I hasten to add. And 2 years later we had another girl, Summer, second daughter. So I was the happiest man in the world, because I'd got these 2 little girls, and they adored me, and everything else didn't matter. So I was working every day and stuff, you know. And then, a couple of years after that, 1998, I realised that I was dreaming about my mum and dad a lot, and I was dreaming about these streets a lot. I'd wake up and I'd say to Steph, dreams are weird. I keep dreaming about my mum and dad, you know, eating me tea over, oh, I had a dream last night, by the way. And then my work boots and stuff. Mum and Dad are there, I'm going back down to the council estate again. There's nothing much happening, but it's weird because they're dead, and you know. And we discussed it, and Steph said to me, well, you know what, it's kind of, because Steph's an intelligent girl, and we spoke to her sister as well, she's got a law degree and stuff, she's really clever, her sister. And we put it down to, because I'm a parent myself now, perhaps there's some kind of, something in my mind, you know, some buried sort of thought that I wouldn't think about in a conscious state, because I've never thought about my parents. They died, life goes on, everybody dies. People die every day. So yeah, okay, but it's just, you know. And then things got interesting, because these dreams continued. And not only was I down there on that street, near my mum's house, I'd go into my mum's house, my mum would be there, my dad would be there. And then I'd wake up and glance across the clock, towards the clock, looking past Steph in the bedroom. There's 3 red neon 2s looking at me on the digital clock. It was 22 minutes past 2 in the morning. So I said, this is getting a bit weird now. And then that started to happen 2, 3, 4 times a week, every week. Parents, council estate, 222, mum and dad. What's going on here then? And things got really strange then. Take a break?
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll have a break.
There we go. So it's 1998. I've got 2 little girls. I'm living in a funky maisonette in a posh part of Bedford where I live. And it's becoming repetitive. My deceased parents are visiting me in my dreams, taking me down, and I'm down there, down on Byron Avenue in the streets where I lived as a kid, and it's waking me up at 2:22, and it's happening 3 or 4 times a week. So again, I spoke to my wife, and I spoke to my wife's sister, and a couple of my friends who wouldn't say you're crackers, Steve, and we all agreed, this is beyond coincidence, there's something going on. I'm like, well, what? What's going on? They're dead. Alerting me to what? And then I started to change inwardly. In many ways, I was becoming an 8-year-old boy again. I was thinking very profound thoughts. But I began to say them now. For instance, a couple of for instances, I saw, I predicted an illness in a child, a bad illness as well, an illness that could have killed him, but I said that he'll contract this illness, but he'll beat this. This was one of our friends' kids. Steph says, you can't say that, Steve. I said, well, you know. That then happened, and he beat it. And another friend of mine come round to see me Christmas '98. He brought his new girlfriend, and as he left, I said to Steph, we'll have a son this time next year. And she said, well, I've only been together a few days, Steve. Give him a chance. I said, well, I'm telling you, Christmas next year, my mate there, Richard, will have a little boy. Christmas came, and he had a little boy. And there was a lot of those instances of that going on with me. So I thought, well, am I destined to become some kind of medium or something? Is this psychic thing real? Because I'll keep saying these things and they keep happening. So then, if we go into 2001, this is the first time I ever wrote something down and dated it. Now, I'd had a couple of 3 dreams involving my sister, and in these dreams, I was at an airport, what I assumed was an airport. I'd never been to an airport at that time, let alone been on an aeroplane. And 2 of these dreams woke me up at 2:22, and 1 woke me up at 3:33. And in these dreams, I was saying to my sister, and my brothers were in one of them, don't get on that aeroplane. You can't get on it. And they're like, Steve. I was waking up, looking at the time or something. So I was more drawn, because it was family, than anything else. What's going on here? Then on the 28th of Feb, all the elements were here in this. So I'll read this out to you now. I was back home in Byron Avenue. Myself, my brothers and my mum. The nephew, Matthew, is my nephew's my sister's son. He come round, said that he had a drink problem, which he doesn't. And his father, Ray, turned up, my sister's husband, and he mentioned what Matt had said. And I had a yearning to say, yeah, he's got a problem. But Ray was talking to my brother. So I'm in my mum's house, and my brother-in-law's turning up. So Ray left by the front door, and I look out the window skywards. And as I've written here, I saw the sun, the moon, and more planets appear. So I'm looking out the window in my mum's house, my mum's there, and I look up at the sky, and some planets aligned in the sky, and it was a fantastic sight. I was like, wow. As I've written here, beautiful colours, orange, red, yellow, the sky between night and day colour of blue. That's the best way I could describe it, this blue colour, these planets, was fantastic. And I said to my brother, take a picture of this, John, this is fantastic, look at this. So I went outside into the gardens to get a look. And Ray said to me you've got to go, he booked aboard an aeroplane. I went, oh, okay. And the planets pinged away. And there was a noise, like a whistle of a World War II bomb, went off in the street. So I looked to the left. What? There was carnage in the street, everything was shaking. And so this bomb come down, and then a big white Boeing. Bearing in mind I'm in the street, by my mum's house. This huge Boeing just above the rooftops. I could feel the power of this thing. I was looking up, and what the bloody hell is that? Massive white passenger jet. Went overhead. And then some fighter jets come hurtling through the sky. Like, I was like, what's going on? You know, this is near my mum's house, in Bedworth, in the Midlands. And they shot at this thing, and it crashed, plummeted, and there was smoke bellowing up. And then another Boeing come over, and that came under attack as well. It was utter panic. And in this dream I'm thinking, I hope Ray wasn't in that plane, because if he was, he's dead. My brothers ran down the side of the house. It was chaos. And I went back into the house, and my mum was there. I said, Mum, come with me. And there's all this carnage going on outside. And I'm very protective of my mum. We went under the kitchen table. And I woke up. It's like, what was that all about? That was about 6 o'clock in the morning. And oddly, even though initially that frightened me, there was a serenity dropped on me, and I kind of knew, I thought, I need to write this down. So I did. And then, a couple of months later, I was lying in bed. We were in bed and the girls were asleep. And as I lay there, I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't awake. My sensory perception was still, I could still hear and stuff. And I could hear Frank Sinatra singing New York, clear as day. Start spreading the news. I'm like, what? I'm leaving today. I'm like, what? What's that? I opened my eyes. I could still hear it. Now, we lived in a flat, we're all on the same level. And I've got loads and loads and loads of records at home. Thousands, literally thousands of records. I've got an old Sinatra album. It was my dad's portrait of Sinatra from 1974. I thought, I wonder if the needles dropped on, because I play a lot of vinyl at home. So I'm kind of half asleep, trips over the cat again, get out of walking through, walked into the lounge, because the bedroom to the lounge was only from here to that pillar away. Silence. Looked at the turntable, got back in bed, fallen asleep, and I had a vision. I thought, this is a vision. And I was in like a glass helicopter, glass fronted thing, and I could see all these tall buildings below me, and I saw this bridge in front of it. And again, I want to be a part of it. And I'm like, what? So I nudged the missus. I could still see this thing. I said, Steph, we're going to America. I could see America. I could see it. She said, Steve, go to sleep, will you? I'm like, what's going on? So I went to sleep. And then, a couple of months after that, I had another dream, and I was near the Spiritualist Church in Bedworth, where I live. And I'm walking toward there, and I'm with Steph and her other sister. And the sky went a weird blue colour again. I've looked up. A Boeing aircraft went over, passenger jet. What's that? Next thing, it's chaos. It's people running around, machine guns, bullets pinging all over the place. I'm like, what? So I grabbed Steph, grabbed Linda, her other sister, threw them on the floor. There's bullets fizzing past my head, and people running around spraying machine guns. This is in a mining town in the Midlands. Woke up from that, I was like, you know, what was that all about? That was crazy, that was. And then, after that, so I'm thinking, what's going on here? What am I being led to? What am I being told? Now also at this time, I was changing, I was searching within myself. I was looking. I'd read some books, looking at religion. I read about Christianity, and from what I could gather from Christianity, basically there's this guy called Jesus, who's God as well, who says to you, love me or else I will send you to hell, and there's these 10 rules you must live by, or if you don't, I'll send you to this burning hell. And I thought, well, you're a God of love and you're sending me to the very thing you're trying to save me from. What's the crack there? You're a big bully or what? What's going on here? So I started to read. I've got a book called Teach Yourself Eastern Religions. It was about that thick. I thought, there's a lot of these. And they're all saying this God's real, that God's real, this God's real. Every God's real to whatever you adhere to. And I thought, this is really confusing me. I don't get this. Well, people keep telling me God's about love and stuff, and yet all it seems to be telling me is about behave or else. It's like a threat. What's that? Didn't make any sense to me. So I was searching a lot. And then, one night, it was in the summertime, and I'd started, because when I was a kid I used to write poetry, but I didn't tell anybody, I used to hide it. And I was in the flat, and I was looking out the window, and I got a music channel on, so I wrote a couple of songs down that I needed to get hold of. And Steph said to me, I'm going to bed, Steve. I says, cool. And I'm looking out the window, I says, I tell you what, this Boeing thing, this aeroplane thing, there's something going on. I can feel this foreboding's bad. Something's really bad's happening. And she said, well, you know, what do you think it could be? I said, I don't know if they're going to crash into each other or what, but it's just, this passenger jet's really starting to bother me now. So she went to bed anyway. And I'm looking out the window, and I lit a joss stick in the flat, and I sat there. And a poem hit me. I wrote this about 30 seconds. Don't know where it come from. So I wrote at the top there, light a joss stick and stare at the sky and stick your finger in your eye. Now that is reference. At this time as well, I was having horrendous headaches through my right eye. I was screaming with the pain. I had to get a hot water bottle and push it against my eye, and it was searing pain going. I thought my brain was on fire. Steph thought I've got a brain tumour. My doctor says they're cluster headaches. They come in clusters. Nobody knows why they come. Nobody knows what it is. I said to Steph, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just becoming what I always was. I'm probably the most psychic person in the world, and I'll prove it soon. And she says, well, Steve, forget the psychic stuff. So I've got some painkillers and stuff. So I'm going through all this thing going in my head. I've got this physical pain. I'm having these attacks 4 or 5, 6 times a day, screaming with the pain. I wrote a quick poem. I don't know where it come from. Looking out the window as some aeroplanes went over, because we're quite near Birmingham Airport. I wrote, it was Christmas in July, and the heavenly burdened sky had painfully cried out no more. Then the angels were summoned by request, never command to close this painfully cold door. So from the angels a message on a wing was taken to a most secret place. It came from the heavens, delivered to the seventh, and secretly handed through space. Then in the morning sun, when the daylight had won and her moon had recovered its string, to allow her sisters to greet all below her, and the bird can sweetly sing. Of a tune to be heard for those who can hear it, she will tweet it from all kingdom come. So for those who can hear it, you'd better adhere it. And prepare, rejoice for the Almighty One. What am I talking about there? I didn't have a bloody clue. I just wrote it. Interestingly enough, at that time, I felt there was a correlation between me waking up at these times, seeing these passenger aircraft. I was reading this book about religion, I read about this guy called Muhammad. Up until that time, I'd only ever heard of Muhammad Ali. And this guy, Muhammad, apparently formed a religion called Islam, and their God is Allah, who's the God of all things, and the Prophet was Muhammad. And he founded basically Islam through dreams and visions that became stronger, and he eventually believed they were from God. So I saw a correlation, though, not declaring myself as a prophet, but I thought, that's happening to me. So on the reverse of that poem that I wrote in July, I was writing Allah and trying to work out some basic numerology to see if I could get the numbers to correlate. Steph obviously needed to buy sheets and pillars at that time, but I was more concerned with God or what I was being told it was and whatever. And then I watched Faces of Islam. And I'd never seen this. I didn't know about Mecca. I didn't have a clue. And Faces of Islam was on BBC Two, so I was watching it while the kids, Steph was in bed. It was on late at night in the summertime of 2001. And I got this hot water bottle on my eye, so I'm watching it through one eye. The call to prayer, Allah. And I'm like, whoa, what's this? There's all these Muslims in white robes walking around this thing. I thought, that's calling me, that's telling me something. And then, see the sky there at Mecca? When I saw that, I jumped back in my seat, literally, because in my dream, the beautiful sky that I saw, there it was. They spoke again about this guy called Muhammad, and they spoke about this book called the Quran. I'd never heard of that either. I thought it was something you had with rice and chips until that day. So, in the morning, I said to the missus, I think I know what my calling is. It's a bit weird. There's a religion called Islam. Apparently they're called Muslims, and their God's called Allah. And this prophet's called Muhammad, and what happened to him is happening to me. And she's gone, well, so get me the Quran, please, the English version of it. Went to our local library. They thought it was something like rice and chips as well. They didn't know anything about that at that time. So I thought, this is really getting confusing now. Sorry. So then, I've got a statement here. This is from a guy, Paul Galley. Paul's a community worker. He used to be a school teacher, really, really intelligent guy. And I'd known him about a year or so at this time, and he knew everything I was telling him as it was happening to me, what was happening. And he said, it's fascinating, Steve, this is. I said, I can't make any sense of it all. And so he said to me, what happened was we went to a concert in Leicester. Coldplay were playing in September. My youngest daughter loved the song Yellow by Coldplay, and I said to Steph, I'm taking the girls to this gig, and if one of these headaches kicks in, I'm sick of putting my life on hold. So we went to this gig, and I saw Paul there. So I'll meet you back at the pub if you want, Paul. I've got some stuff to tell you. This was on the 9th of September. He said, okay, yeah. So he wrote an account, and he said, this account has been submitted as confirmation of a psychic premonition related to my wife Marianne and me prior to the events of 11th September. I didn't directly predict this, but I just told him what was happening. So we spent a couple of hours in conversation at various points. During the time, Steve made statements to come to gain his special significance on the 11th, although he did not directly predict the unprecedented untoward events of that day. He made 3 points. Steve told us around the time of his premonitions he would suffer migraines and asked Marianne if she knew of any remedies. He explained that usually on this occasion his migraines had caused him to be confined to bed for the previous week. He mentioned this had left him with a strong sense of foreboding. I was literally on my back with this pain, screaming with the pain. Second, Steve mentioned a growing interest in the Islamic faith. As a community worker, I've been given some interesting material by a local acquaintance which I said I'd let him have. I asked Paul about Islam and what he knew about it. And the third point, there was quiet background music playing in the pub. One of the tracks that came on was Frank Sinatra's Night and Day. When he heard Sinatra singing, Steve asked whether I could hear whether the record was New York, New York, saying that the tune had been bugging him for days and kept coming into his head. If you'd like to speak to me further about this, I've told Steve that he can give you our home telephone number. So I was telling him about these outrageous headaches. I was telling him how I'm really drawn to Islam and I wanted to know a lot more about this religion that I've never heard of. And also Sinatra was playing in the pub and it was night and day, but it was very, very quiet. I said, is that New York, Paul? Because I keep hearing that, it's doing my head in. And the next day, on the 10th, he dropped a cassette through my door, which was an imam giving a talk in a mosque. Also at this time, around this time, I sat with Steph's sister. And I, on a piece of paper, and I drew a bow in best I could, and I drew these buildings, and I drew this bridge in front of it. And I said, I keep hearing New York. I said, is that the Manhattan Bridge? Is Manhattan in New York? And Kathy said, yeah, it is, yeah. I said, there's something going on. I'm drawn to Islam. Me, Steve, drawn to a religion. How likely is that? It ain't likely. We couldn't work it out, and I said, I just feel so bad that something horrible's coming. So I saw Paul there on the 9th of September, and then Couldn't go to work because I daredn't drive. The pain in my brain was that bad. And then on September 11, the afternoon, I could hear Steph was coming. I was watching the TV. I could hear Steph coming back with the kids from nursery school. My girls were only babbies, only little. And it popped up on the television that a plane hit a building in New York. And I'm like, you what? So I clicked onto Sky News, and there it was. And I watched it happen in front of my eyes. There's the bridge, there's the buildings, there's the Boeing. Quickly blamed Islamic fundamentalist terrorists. And I was, oh my God. Steph come in, I said, do you know what stuff I've been telling you about? She said, yes, look at this. She nearly fainted. Her sister come out of work, walked out of work, drove to bed with, she said, how are you feeling, Steve? Well, how do you think I feel? And it took me a long time to take this on board, how powerful this was and how much information I'd had. You know, there were people that were saying I was crazy, were suddenly frightened to talk to me, that had known me for years, which annoyed me, to be honest. But if you look back at this poem that I wrote sometime after, Christmas in July, beautiful blue sky, look, looks like a avalanche of snow, doesn't it? And all this in the street, it looks like Christmas time, doesn't it? Snow, all that snow there, look. A heavenly burdened sky, a sky burdened with what? Why am I talking about a sky full of burden? Cried no more. So angels were summoned, a command to close this door. So from the angels, a message on a wing. Message on a wing, is that what that is? Could it be that? It's in New York. From a secret place, came from the heavens, delivered to the sevens, secretly handed through space, a secret coming through space, a message on a wing coming straight to you. There it all was. In the morning, sun and the daylight had won, it happened. 9:15 in New York, sunshine. Prepare, rejoice. Which one is it? Prepare for what? The Almighty One, the Almighty what? That. That's what it meant to me. It was a crazy time. Well, that's Paul's thing. So what we need to do now then, I need to quickly go through this. So what I did then, was I dusted myself down and realised that, okay, I was led to that for a good near 8 months. So it continued. Events pertaining to continued. So I thought, right, I'm either going to curl up in a ball and go crazy, or I'm going to stand up and I'm going to take this on, I'm going to prove this. So I decided to do the latter. So that led me then, because it carried on, more events. So one day, I went to the local library and I phoned a guy. I've got a piece of paper, I know there was a load of production companies on there, people that make films and stuff. And I saw this guy, it was just listed addresses and the names of the business. It was a Marty's Films in Tadworth in Surrey, and I thought, he lives in Tadworth, I live in Bedworth, that'll do. Worth calling him, I'll ring him up. So I rung this guy up, poshest man I've ever spoken to. Tadworth in Surrey, it's about 200 miles away from where I live. I told him about my experiences, he said, that's interesting. And he makes corporate films for Jaguar, T-Mobile, Siemens, adverts you see on TV, he's made loads of them. Really, really posh guy. And I told him about my experiences, and funnily enough, I've got some stuff here for you. Personal stuff, I think, for you. You went, oh, okay. Now at that time, between my lounge and my dining room, there were some glass doors that I've since took out, because the babbies and stuff would put wooden doors in. But at that time, there was glass doors in there. And the sun was shining through the window, and it reflected into the glass, and I could see. So I told him what I could see. I said, I could see a little boy, he's about 8 or 9, he's in a funky, like a black fishtail uniform. There's a French flag behind him, there's a French theme. I said, this is you, actually. He went, right. I said, and oh, it's France. Yeah, you love France. You love going there. It's your favourite country, I'm feeling. And I can see there's a letter P, that's linked to you as well. I said, and the French theme continues because I can see a green Renault and there's a woman driving it. She's got mousy hair and her name's Helena. 3 split name, Helena. Okay, Helena. Does that mean anything to you? And this guy I'd never spoke to before in my life, he said he holidays in France all the time. He goes skiing there and all sorts. His name's Pollock, so the letter P was right. France is his favourite country, and his wife's called Helena. She drives a green Renault, so that shocked him a little bit. And he says, and you are? I says, I'm Steve from Bedford. I just told you I'm psychic. It's right, okay. And so then from there, David experienced with me the tsunami, Boxing Day 2004, lots of other incidents. And he was so blown away by what he was hearing from me. Oh, the funky uniform. He was schooled at Eton, by the way. I went to the local comp when I could be bothered to go. This guy I'm speaking to went to Eton. So in the summertime of 2004, he invited me down to Tadworth in Surrey to meet Alan Dedico. Alan, I don't know if you watch the National Lottery on a Saturday night, but the voiceover guy on the BBC, he does that. He reads the news on Radio 2. In fact, the last 3 big news bulletins he's read out on the radio in the last 2 weeks, he got from me before they happened. So he's a bit freaked again, but they're getting used to it now after all these years. So I went down to meet this guy. He does National Lottery as well. He's always on telly on that all the time. He's lovely, David. He's lovely, David, and Alan Dedico. I'm lucky having people like that. Now, also at this time, I'd made a film because I needed to prove what I do. Because everything I've just showed you just now, and everything I've just told you, you could say, yeah, but you could have wrote that any time. You could be winding us up. You could be a liar. You could be mad. You could be. So evidence, belief goes out the window because evidence is evidence. You believe what you like. Evidence speaks for itself. So I thought, right, I need to prove this because I know how cynical people can be, and I know I would be. If someone said to me, I'll see the future, I'd say, show me, then prove it, or do one. So what I did then, I had some stuff, and very basically, I was at an airport. A great big Chinese fella come over to me. He says, "You Steve Johnson?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "Come with me." Oh, he was all suited and booted. He was a massive guy, up there, big Chinese fella. Went back to his house, round on the council estate where I live, just down the road on Bolton Road. And he took me into his house, and it was a terraced house. So straight away I thought, nah, he's done that up. Why you're all suited and booted, and I've just met you at an international airport. You live in a little terraced house. It's a crack here. And then all these little Chinese kids appeared. I'm like, okay, what's this all about? And then from there, I went across the road and I went into the local chip shop, fish and chip shop, and they were Chinese as well. So I thought, what's going on here? So I come outside, sticking outside the fence with some fish. So I grabbed the fish, ran home, up the streets, ran into my mum's house. My dad was there, brothers were there. They shared all this fish out. And then after that, another one came where I was taken to a seaside resort, and this guy said to me, "I'm going to take you out across the ocean, I'm going to show you the life beneath the ocean." And I'm going across the ocean like this. It's all blue and deep, and I thought, I'm going to drown here. That scared me. Woke up, I could hear this woman crying, was pinned to the bed. I thought, what's this telling me? It was a fish, it's taken away from a takeaway, the ocean, Chinese people. What does this mean? Terraced houses, what's the crack here? So I put these dreams together and I made this film, and Steph pointed the camera at the television and went through the Sky channels and stuff. I switched the TV off, I switched it back on, I said there's no other audio or visual equipment. What more can I do to prove that now is now? This is authentic film, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm being led to. Can't quite work it out. 2 weeks later, some Chinese immigrants were brought into this country by gangmasters, taken to Morecambe Bay, taken out to the ocean, and taking away the couples. They drowned. So, okay, that's what they said. Now at that time, on the This Morning show, that garbage that's on every morning, that happened to be on in my house, and there happened to be a girl on there who professed to be gifted. She was a Russian girl, and she can see into your body and tell you what's wrong with you. And I thought, that's interesting, that's pretty groovy. She had this look in her eye. She reminded me of me when I was a kid, actually, but she couldn't speak English. So basically then, a day or so after, they had some parapsychologist on there. And they're a cynical bunch, these lot. And he ripped this girl to pieces. I thought, that's out of order, that's not bullying, she can't even speak English. Then they had on David Icke, and they presented it as if he was as mad as a box of frogs. and they, very tongue-in-cheek the way it was presented. So I thought, right, you, try that with me. So I phoned them up, and I sent them an email, and this email happened to find its way to the news editor there, Lisa Armstrong. Lisa's lovely, and she rung me up, and I told her about what I do and stuff, and I said, I'll send you this film if you want. You see it for yourself. I said, get your forensics all over it. It's authentic. It's date and time. You can see the time on the television. I went through the channels, the date. It was January, I think, something. This happened in February. So I sent it down to her, and she said, it's interesting, Steve, but it's already happened. I said, well, yeah, but that film's made before the event. So the event hadn't happened when the film was made, so it's irrelevant when it came, because it's after, and I can prove that, as you see for yourself. She says, yeah, but we need something more than this. We need the event. I went, oh, okay. Now, on that film, part of that theme, I worked out, okay, what's left? In one of them dreams, when I went into the same fish shop where the Chinese people were, this time they were Asian. And I'd had a couple of visions from previous stuff that was left over. So I put it together. So I phoned Lisa back, and I phoned Sean O'Neill, who works for Cactus Television, who are basically Channel 4. They make everything on loads of programmes on Channel 4. And I said, okay then, what I need to do then is give you something. What you need to look for, and I told them in one sentence, you need to look for Manchester, you need to look for Liverpool, you need to look for a fish takeaway, you need to look for Asians, and I'm getting a feeling this is terror related. And she says, okay, Steve. A couple of weeks later, big man spat his tea out because all across his television in Manchester, they'd nicked some Asian, alleged they were terrorists, they actually weren't, but they thought they were, above the Dolphin, so there was an ocean link as well, again. And they were planning to target the Manchester United-Liverpool football game. So it was all there. Asians, terrorism, Manchester, Liverpool, fish shop. There you go. So I phoned Lisa back, and she's the news editor, so she sees the news before any of us do. And I said to her, do you see that, Lisa? She goes, oh yeah, I saw that. I said, do you think of me when she saw that? She goes, oh yeah, I thought of you, Steve. I said, what are we going to do? She says, we can't touch you, Steve, we can't frighten the public. I said, but you've just had a couple of gifted people on here, took the piss out of them. What's the crack? Well, no, broadcasting restrictions say that we can't, you know, it's incredible what this gift you've got, it's amazing, but we can't do anything with you. I said, but if you could ridicule me, you'd get me on your, what are you, bullies? What's the crack here? I learned a lot about the media that quick. So then I thought, okay, what I need to do now, I need to unequivocally prove this, because David Pollock had said to me, Steve, you're going to struggle with media. So I thought, right, well, I've got on board, I've got a really posh filmmaker who went to Eton, I've got a mainstream BBC broadcaster, I've got a chick who orchestrates the news in mainstream broadcasting TV. I'm getting nowhere with this. Now what can I do? So I got in touch with a psychologist, and it went completely over his head. So I said, I'll tell you what, you carry on with your psychology malarkey. I'll carry on with what I do, and our paths will probably cross again one day. So I looked on the internet, and I put in psychology, and eventually fell into parapsychology. I didn't have a clue what it was. And I saw Map It website, and there's all these funky words I'd never heard of, like anomalistic phenomena, and I'm like, what's that? What's it all about? So, Steph, she said, what? Come here. What? What's that mean? So she read it all. Went into SEP, and she said, well, basically, Steve, because I do speak in very basic terms, she said, basically, Steve, if you ring this Steve Meara guy, he's going to say you're nuts. I've gone, you what? Is he now? So I thought, she said, well, look, he's got a psychology degree, and he's got this, and he's got that. I said, I don't care what he's got. He's going to call me nuts, is he? So I phoned him up, thinking he's going to call me nuts, so I'm going to wind him up. So I've done him like a kipper. I said to him, I don't care where you've been, who you've met, what you've done, if you've seen ghosts or whatever, psychics, whatever, I will blow your head away. I'll tell you now. He's going, oh, all right, will you? I said, call me arrogant, call me what you want, I don't care. I said, I'm going to blow your head away, pal. And I knew I'd wind him up, and I'd wound him up. And he thought, right, arrogant sod. I thought, yeah, got ya. And within a couple of weeks, he spat his tea out again. I just told you, didn't I? And then the fun started. So, I'll give you some examples. If we go into 6th of April 2005, that went, look, and I can prove this. If I couldn't prove it, I wouldn't be stood here, I'll tell you that. If I couldn't prove everything I'm going to say and show to you, I wouldn't be here. There'd be no point, because I'd look a right mob, wouldn't I? So, all the elements were there again. Okay, so if I miss any sentences out, it's because it relates to other stuff, and we'll be here all night for me trying to explain. Okay, so April the 5th, 2005, 12:52. I dreamt last night I was walking toward the pub. Me and Steph used to drink him all the time before we got married. Great boozer, run by great people. So I get near the pub. There's a big van blocking my path, parked right outside the door. I'm like, oh, okay, can't go in the pub then, can't go and have a pint. So I went down my dad's, went down the flat. It was a big like a removals van or a big LDV, right outside the pub's door. So I go down to my dad's flat, just up the road from where I lived as a kid when my mum lived, and outside my mum was there in the garden. I put my arms around her. I went, hello, Mum. And I noticed in next door's garden, in the front garden, was Margaret Holden, who run the pub that I'm speaking of here. And a family of brothers walked by, apart from my mate. They were all dressed really smartly in suits, apart from Alan. Alan had died the year before. He dropped dead suddenly, bless him. One of my best mates, Alan was. Anyway, so thinking about this, entries made previously, now this is different vision that I'm relating to here, with squashed houses and sailors and elevated into the air. This is where the Gilby family live. The scary thing is, the pub we mention here, and Margaret mentioned here that was in the garden tending to flowers and stuff, next to where my mum was, she ran the pub. There's a van outside this pub blocking my path. Its name, by the way, is the British Queen. Lots of pointers to the British Queen, because it's the British Queen boozer, and there's all these pointers to the British Queen. I'm wondering if yesterday's entries of expensive cars pulling up like a function or a meeting, and the other subtle stuff is building to the murder of the Queen. Now, when I'd had this vision, I got up in the morning, and I wrote here, I see today Mr. Blair has been to see the Queen at the palace. So I've had this dream, I think, British Queen. Switch on the TV, and there's Tony Blair talking about the Queen, and an election announcement. I went, oh. And the election had been announced for May the 5th. Now, those dates that I gave there were an interesting time for me. And you have to bear in mind as well that terrorism or anything like that had been nowhere near this country at this time. I wasn't here till July. This is April. So I've written down here, I firmly believe the brains behind Al-Qaeda use numbers to execute their hits. I feel an election planned on the 5th of may give the terrorists the green light to do it again. Another common denominator is gardens, the truck and the squash house stuff that I spoke of there. This was all placed already, but it was a garden link again into these visions here. So as I write down here, this latest entry, I'm outside my mum's flat and cuddling my mum in the front garden. Margaret's there, landlady of the British Queen, she was in the garden and she was tending to it, she was pruning flowers. Some kind of function where the Queen might be, people turning up in expensive cars, garden areas, something will happen pointed to this, I'm sure of it. So I'm talking there about the British Queen, a big van outside the door blocking my path, my mum's there in the garden, the Gilbys with the garden, Margaret from the pub's in the garden tending flowers. So it's a garden link, the British Queen, a big van blocking my path outside the door of the pub. Yeah. So I phoned Steve and told him. He said, get this to me. I phoned my posh mate in Surrey and told him. And he said, Steve, the Queen's got the tightest security in the world, don't worry about it. I said, mate, this thing was so strong, what's it telling me? He says, don't worry, it's not, you know. The next day, that's the British Queen. That's what, and the van was right outside that door. So I've gone down my mum's, down to my dad's flat. There's my dad's flat there. My mum was there, and I was cuddling her. There's the garden there, the flowers, the landlady, the British Queen was in there, so I knew it was British Queen, gardens, what's this telling me? And this van thing. The next day, a fake bomb reaches Castle area. Metropolitan Police Chief Sir Ian Blair has ordered an inquiry into claims journalists drove a van carrying a fake bomb into Windsor Castle's grounds. The Scum newspaper said the van passed St George's Chapel, where the marriage of Camilla Parker Bowles and Prince Charles were blessed this Saturday. There's your expensive cars pulling up. The apparent security breach raised serious concerns, Scotland Yard said. So there's your van, your bomb, your Queen. If that had been a real bomb, it would have blown the Queen up because she was in residence and it parked right outside the door. And Windsor is famed for its garden areas throughout the world. That happened the next day. So then, that freaked everybody out. So on the 4th, because I had the date of May the 5th, on the 4th of May, I phoned Steve up. I'm going to have to get you a box of Yorkshire tea for Christmas, mate. Because the next day, I phoned Steve on the 4th. I says, big man, what's this? He says, what? I said, remember that mail I sent you? About the British Queen and that and the van and whatever. He says, yeah. I said, what's this tomorrow? This sign for terrorism. It's going to be here. The next day, grenade blast at British Embassy in New York on the 5th of May. 2 toy grenades filled with gunpowder exploded in the early hours. The British Embassy in New York. British Embassy. The 2 small makeshift grenades exploded outside the building of the British consulate. Happened at 3:35. I know it happened at 3:33, by the way. The grenades had been placed in flower boxes outside. There's your flower link again. There's your garden link again. There's the date. There's your sign of terrorism. They didn't have a clue, did it? I knew. And then, I was right about Islamic fundamentalist terrorists giving signs that they were heading this way, because they admitted to it. And yeah, it was us. And today, May the 5th, they claim responsibility for the explosions outside the British consulate in New York. The attack was the beginning of war inside and outside of America. No one was hurt in the blast. They weren't meant to be. It was a warning. These muppets, they didn't believe that and said, don't panic, it's not a problem. Okay. So I got all that right in that one small paragraph. It was bang on. And I'll say to a lot of people, you know, if this isn't what this means, what does it mean? So I wrote a few poems. So I wrote a little ditty. Off down the street and to the boozer, the 5th of the 4th, and we're going to use you. Outside the pub, a van blocks my way. So to my dad's flat, it's a beautiful day. There in the garden, I cuddle my mum, Margaret tending flowers, there's something to come. I wake in the morning, what can this be? So I switch on the TV, and what do I see? Election announcement for the 5th day of 5. A month from this vision, it's sure to arrive. The leader is man and woman, and this makes me think. The van and the lady, my God, there's the link. Panic sets in now, you'll see what I mean. All of this points to the British Queen. The very next day, a placement for sure. Fake bomb in a van, and there's such a furore. The para, the filmmaker, they knew right away because I'd sent them a mail the previous day. So the 5th of the 5th, and we see it once more. Real bombs and flowers at a New York door. The day of the 5, and the month and the year. Visions for real from this man, the seer. And this is confirmation. It was coming my way. A few people, you know, they think they're clever, they're not. Well, you can manipulate emails. Well, according to the people that do it, no, you can't. Original timestamp headers of emails, you cannot manipulate them. The words captured in that time frame and the date forever, and that confirms it. So then, I'll explain this as I go. So now, as you can see, our sus London was next for terrorism. I sent this mail to Steve on the 21st of June, 3 weeks before it was here. He was on holiday, I phoned him up. Says, you ain't going to London, man, big man, are you? This is when I'm in Wales, I wasn't intending to. I said, well, if you've got any lectures booked in London, don't go. I said, why? I said, because you might not come back, that's why. So, he's on holiday. Now, I'll try and explain this as that bit's there obvious. Last May's van stuff came at Windsor, obvious British Queen link. Liverpool fans in the garden described as like the Jubilee. Now, while that came about, just before this happened, on the 25th of May, Liverpool were in the European Cup final. I'm a Reds fanatic, Liverpool fanatic, I love football. And I'd had a vision before that I was in the streets of Liverpool and I came across a family They were singing You'll Never Walk Alone in the front garden, so I joined in with them. And I took from that, perhaps Liverpool were going to win, even though we were playing the best team in Europe. At half time, we were 3-0 down. So I phoned Steve, and I phoned my mate Hitesh, who was in London, he works in the media. And I said to both of them, we need 3 goals to win this game, not 4. Am I going to get them? The European Cup's coming back to England tonight. We're playing the best team in Europe, we're 3-0 down. And me saying we're going to get 3 goals would suggest us come back to 3-3, go into extra time, there'd be no goals scored, go to penalties, Liverpool would win it. The odds were astronomical at that time. My mate Tesh said to me, Steve, if you're so sure, get a bet on us. I ain't bothered about the money, Tesh, you know that. Money don't mean anything to me. I want the European Cup back here, watch this, we're going to do it. And we did. And then, after that, because my daughter is a very talented footballer, she was at Coventry City Centre of Excellence at that time, and playing for the local boys team as well, till the FA stopped the playing. And I went to this tournament. Reds had just won the European Cup. I was buzzing, because, you know. And I saw there was a girl, one of the manager's wife, and she said, well, we went to Liverpool, Steve, for the European Cup parade. And she said, we saw these people in the garden, you know, like the Jubilee was in '77, like a street party. And I went, okay, that's a royalty link again. What's the crack there? What's that telling me? And then, so after that, I'd had a couple of dreams. And these were characters out of EastEnders. You know, that crap that's on a couple of times a week. So I asked the missus and I asked my daughter, well, that guy on there, who's that? She went, he's in EastEnders, Dad. I went, oh, okay. Then I had another dream about a guy from EastEnders, Phil Mitchell, I think, or something. What's that? What's the crack there? And then another night, I went to bed really early, so I was exhausted. And there was a light shining on the wall. I looked into it, and as mad as this sounds, I was taken into the cosmos. All the incredible stars and planets, I was like. And I got freaked out in that vision, because I thought, I'm not going to be able to come back. I'm going to be lost in space here. I swam back in. I was like, what was that all about? The next day, I rang Paul Galley, the community worker guy, to tell him, I said, this mad vision last night, I went into space, all these things I saw. He went, oh, I thought you'd rung to tell me about Big Ben. I went, what? I said, what, you mean that big clock in London? He says, yeah. I said, what? He said, the hands stopped last night. I said, what? He said, it's all over the internet. The hands stopped in London, Big Ben, for 90 minutes, duration of a football game, if you will. I said, you what? You winding me up? He says, no, Steve, have a look. He goes, I thought you'd noticed that because it stopped at 10:20. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, in 24-hour terms, that's 2220. I said, so I put it all together. The van at Windsor and that, the British Queen, Liverpool fans like to describe as like the Jubilee, East End, TV stars, Big Ben stops, the very night being taken to the cosmos. London is next, it's being planned right now. Even the bombs of May the 5th of the British consulate, this country, London is next for sure. Now, I was trying to look for a correlation with the numerology that I knew worked strongly in my life at this time. Of course, next year we have May the 6th, the World Cup in Germany, time of the 5, which was the 25th of May for me, best euphoria I've ever felt as far as football's concerned. Time of the 6th could be oh so different. And I know that next year's 911 days since the Madrid bombs. I predicted the Madrid bombs as well, by the way. I know I'm right about London, but I feel it's next year. But from the 21st of June up until July the 6th, the day before it happened, this London thing was hitting me so strong and I was freaking out. I was phoning you, Steve, weren't I? And he's like, Steve, calm down. I said, how can I calm down, mate? Nobody's listening. They're not hearing what I'm saying. I even got word to Alan Dedico at the BBC, watch yourself, Alan, because you're going to get fucking blown up. I'm telling you now. I know I'm right. London won the bid for the Olympics. Everybody was all happy. I was ringing Steve saying, this won't last long. I tell you that. London's having it, look. This time as we talk about London, the very next day London wins a bid for the Olympics. Hopefully that's all that will happen, but I doubt it. The next day, that happened. Day after London won the bid for the Olympics, up it went. Boom. First blast Liverpool Street, interestingly enough. I was in bits again, because I'd shouted it from the rooftops. So then, Now, interestingly enough, I gave the date for the 6th of June as well, 2006. 2006, 6th of June, they nicked some Manchester Airport. Intense operation, it would soon become the first counter-inquiry to be led by the counter-terrorism unit, and a significant terror cell disruption in the UK. They nicked them at Manchester Airport on the day, 6th of June. So I called both of those. And then, after that, so we're in 2006 now, and by this time, the rhetoric coming my way from mainstream media, who won't touch me, even though if you profess to be gifted, they'll get you on there and they'll take the piss out of you, because it raises a laugh. Excuse my language, but it makes me so angry. I've got all this stuff going on in my head, it's happened, and they've seen it for themselves. And the rhetoric that come my way was that it was obvious London was a target for terrorism. I said, you what? So if it was that obvious, how come nobody knew and 52 people got blown to pieces? How come the rhetoric coming out at the time was this come out of the blue? Tony Blair said this come out of the blue. I knew, I told you. I told mainstream television. You did nothing. But what could they do? So these headaches in 2006 came back. I was screaming again. So I knew it was Boeing's and I knew it was terrorism again. So I wrote them another little poem. And this went August the 2nd. Planes and trains with big red bus, twisted blown up tube, the smoke she bellowed and hearty fellas, faces all over the news, yet it was obvious. London trains and bus, Al-Qaeda, they would shout their walk all there. Yes, it came and it spins like the earth spin and spin, 9/11, 9/11, 7 score, there's more. So, soon we have the 8, will we see it, congregate, oh you cities, may see Islamic soldiers at your door once more. Because it is obvious, not to many, but to us, I can't help it. It's the way I'm meant to be, do you see? I gave him a date, around the 8th of August. Be aware, be careful, and I hope I'm wrong. Watch for this again. It's coming back. Would the terrorists be so bold as to do it a year and a month later the following year? You bet your arse they would. Because the 8th came, it was my daughter's birthday, nothing happened. The following day, a plot to blow up planes and flights from the UK to the US and commit mass murder on an unimaginable scale has been disrupted. They just thought the plan was to detonate explosive device smuggled in on luggage, as many as 10 aircraft, and aircraft, big Boeings, carry hundreds of people. That would have been absolute carnage. They caught them. The only people that knew they were going to do that was the people themselves, MI5, me, him, and my media acquaintances. The other date that I gave at the bottom there was September 11 again, in 2006. On September 11, 2006 in Damascus, the American embassy was raided by a load of insurgents and they were all shot dead. Now, so I'm not obsessed with terrorism, by the way. I also called Lee Rigby in 2013, January. I was talking about a Manchester United supporting Queen's Guard soldier, and that came in May. But so, if we look at this one, this is an interesting one. This went on. Let's have a look, where are we? On the 16th of Feb 2012, and I called this Planes in the Sky. So I'm down at my mum's house. I was at Byron Avenue where I lived as a kid. Overheard in the plane, like a Harrier fighter jump jet was clearly crashing. In this dream, I was aged about 8. I watched the plane as it dropped out of sight and waited for a plummet of black blown up smoke to poof the sky, which it did. So 8-year-old me in this dream, I jumped on my bike, rode to the crash scene, looked skyward again, and there was more fighter jets coming through the information. Seemed to be tracking this one. I woke up, I was 43 again. So in this dream, I'm 8, outside my mum's house, a military fighter jet comes over, and it crashes behind the houses, and there's black smoke plummeting up on my bike. I'm going to have a look at that. Woke up, 43 again. What's that all about? So then after that, after I'd written Planes in the Sky, this one, because I often with dreams I have multifaceted, it will lead off into different directions and they come one after the other. So I sent this one, I called it Flats and Floating on the 24th of February. I've noticed recently I've been dreaming about flats, maisonettes, in a place I don't recognise, one which was America. Definitely, in fact, there was 3 because 2 more came after. They were definitely America. And these flat streams have been 4 or 5 in the last week or so, so it was every night. So in my latest dream, I was in an art gallery, floating through the corridor, because I levitate in dreams as well. I floated into a room, there were some students in an art gallery, like a university. All of a sudden I was like, what's going on here? I told a guy I just hovered all the way down the corridor. He didn't seem particularly impressed. He was a security man, actually. I've just hovered all the way down here. He didn't look very happy about that. And then I was at a country canal type place with some guys I didn't recognise. Their vehicle had broken down, and I climbed this bridge, and it was definitive dark grey blue bricks. I got to the top and I froze with fear at the top of this bridge, and that fear woke me up. So I'm like, what's going on here? Flats, maisonettes in America, floating through an art gallery that then becomes like a university place, and a blue bridge, and I'm scared to death at this bridge, this brick-built bridge, this countryside bridge. A couple of more bridges dreams came that were very similar to that, so that was really bothering me. What's that telling me? So then, a military jet crashed a couple of weeks later, straight onto some maisonettes in America. It's not as though I've described tall buildings, they were maisonettes, ground floor, first floor. There it was, and they blamed it on pilot error. That was exactly the scene that I was speaking of. And it crashed behind those maisonettes there, and so it crashed out of sight, just like I'd seen. There's the black smoke plummeting to the sky. And interestingly enough, how I called that male flats and floating, preceded by a military jet crashing out of sight. One of the witnesses said that it was odd, but we didn't think anything about it. It appeared to be floating in the air before it went down behind the trees. So even in the title, it was there. And they're the exact flats that I went into. And they're in Virginia in USA, 5,000 miles from where I live. So these are just a few that I've done over the last while. Cockle pickers, the tsunami, the Pope's funeral, I called that, and his death, and the date for his funeral. Madrid train bombings in March, floodings in the UK in 2007. There was an earthquake in Sri Lanka in 2005. This one here, burglary of Sharon Osbourne's house, I phoned her agent, Sharon Osbourne, and I said, hello, my name's Steve and I'm really gifted and I'll blow your head, but what you need to do, you need to have a word with Sharon and Ozzy, because they're going to get their house burgled, from what I've been told. It's a ransacking of a mansion and it's to do with them. Now, I don't know whether she thought I was crackers, or I don't know whether she told them and they took no notice, but 2 weeks later, Sharon Osbourne had 250,000 worth of jewellery stolen out of her house. So, I warned them. I can only warn them. Neo-Nazi racism with Polish football, I'll touch on that in a minute. And then there was a recent one in 2012, actually, there's been loads since then, in Orlando, and I'll come to them now. This is just a quick one, the way I worked it out. This went on the 25th of September. So I have America, Orlando, Mini, which gave me Orlando as well. A scene of evacuation, federal machine guns, a strange smell in the air. Could it be an incident as arising in Orlando, America, Florida? Certainly seems feasible. I was looking at that. And then down here, this came on the 27th, so it was 2 days after. I was parked outside my son's school in the same vehicle that I mentioned up there. I'm thinking, okay, I was still drawn to America then. There was a pungent smell again. And I mentioned my son's school there, and down here as well. And my son's school, it's the biggest school in Warwickshire. It looks like a university campus. So what's this telling me? And my dad was in this as well. So I thought, here we go, what's this telling me here? So parking a vehicle, a strange smell, my dad's there. A strange smelling around a car. I'm looking at a bomb here, a car bomb or something, a link to USA. So we've got Orlando in Florida, America, my son's senior school, like a campus area type thing. And then, only hours after I'd sent that mail, UFC South Lake campus reopened after strange library odour. This is from the Orlando Sentinel. University of Central Florida's South Lake campus has reopened after what was initially thought to be a bomb threat. So a strange smell led to a bomb threat at a college in Orlando, Florida, just like I said it would. And that went to the host of Pang Radio USA, because they'd interview us. He fell off his chair when he seen that. I had to laugh at that. This is Steve's bit now, statistical analysis, and then I'll wrap it up. Because there's more.
Okay, just very quickly, just want to remember regarding statistics that we talked about earlier on that Orlando incident, okay? Okay, Mr. Johnson could have named any country in the world where this could have taken place. There are 194 countries in the world, so it was 1 in 994 countries. Not only that, he mentioned the city in that country as well. And how many cities are in the United States? There are 30,113 cities. So, of course, again, we can calculate 1 in 30,113. Mr. Johnson also referenced the campus and universities. Universities in the United States, 7,690. Mr. Johnson gave reference to Orlando City campus universities, which are 24. Okay, so this is how we work out statistics, chance factors, okay? It's all mathematics, simple. Therefore, 1 in 94 by 1, 30,013, by 1 in 24 equals 139,680,000 to 1 chance. Let's just say that again. 139,680,000 to 1 chance. You got that correct? What are the odds? Okay, let me just give you some odd examples. Winning the national lotteries, just under 14 million to 1. Chance factor of having quads, 142,000 to 1. Becoming a US astronaut, even. 13,200,000 to 1. Drowning in your bathtub, 685,000 to 1. The Orlando incident, Mr. Johnson measured 139,680,000 to 1. And this is why we look at statistics, mathematics, because when we keep getting them over and over again with consistency, it proves without a shadow of a doubt we are dealing with a true phenomenon. That was just a quick reference regarding profit, how it's referenced in numerous different things. These are some of the radio stations that Steve's been on. They are available on YouTube. If you want to just put Steve Johnson in there, you'll probably find them. There's quite a number of different ones, starting from the Planet X in Liverpool through to international radios, interviews where he will actually does give information before they actually happen, some of the events. If you actually look at the date of the radio station was actually done. That was the Planet X radio on April the 15th, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was, if you look at that, I was talking about, what was it, a football ground, Polish skinhead types at a football ground. They look like 70s, 80s skinhead types, and I got the impression they were neo-Nazis because there was some German ghosts behind them, working through them. It was doing this weird swaying motion. That's what I said word for word on the radio. They were wearing docks and stuff, like 70s skinhead types. Woke up, thought, what's that telling me? These German ghosts. And I spoke about one particular guy there. One particular guy I was looking at, he was marching backward and forward, and he was singing. I got the impression they were neo-Nazis. He was a skinhead, like, you know, in the 70s and 80s. And then, just after that, about 3 weeks later, Stadiums of Hate by Undercover Panorama documentary. I spat my tea out this time, because there he is. There he was. And if you look at what they're singing there, and I was saying it was neo-Nazi, real hardcore. They're singing Who's Not Jumping is a Jew, and they were singing Jewish whore and stuff. And it showed, when it showed the camera angle from where I was standing in this Polish football ground and looking towards these supporters, there they were. All his skinhead mates, look, and whatever. That's the exact guy I saw. Now the other thing that remember I spoke about, that I just showed you, where I was in an art gallery which then became a place full of students. Just after that, an art gallery had all its stuff nicked, and it's linked to a university. It's part of the university, Cambridge University. I thought, oh, okay, whatever. This one was difficult. Remember the blue bridge I was talking about there? The blue brick-built bridge and the country setting and the fear. There it is. And one day I'd dropped my girls at college. I'd come back from college, walking through the house. And the story was about a little girl who'd been abducted. And it was now a murder inquiry, April Jones, God bless her. And The reporter was talking, and I walked through the lounge on TV, and there, I've been there before, I know this place, but it was in the middle of Wales, and I watched. And a weird twist when I was talking about this bridges stuff. If you see the actual picture of that on the internet, that bridge is actually blue. And I saw that, I was like, oh no. And the reporter announced that they'd arrested somebody called Mark Bridger. So even his name resonated with the bridge link, Bridger by the bridge. And that was I picked up on that little girl's fear of what that bastard did to her. Sorry. So, let's have a bit of audience participation if we can. Let's see if we can just quickly do this. So I sent this on the 28th, now on the 29th. As well as what I see in my head, I'm led through my physical day, through coincidences and synchronicities. Also my gut feeling, and I'm led, okay, what am I being told here? Now none of this went on in my head, this went on in my life. So on the 29th of the 8th of 2012, hey Paul, is good, I'm picking my car up in a few hours, can't wait. You know, so many people are focused on the 21st of December. For me, the date I'm looking at is the 12th. Didn't know why at that time. I've written down here, ex-girlfriends, former acquaintances, blast from the past. Ex is prominent, people from past. Ex, past, feeling lousy, that's what one's entitled. So, this Orlando incident's too small. Just when Boscastle came in 2004, as I said to David Pollock, the elements are here I'm talking of, this isn't it. It isn't big enough, nobody's dead. This is the same from Boscastle that year to the actual incident. The tsunami took 6 months to materialise. This one won't take so long. We have then an X thing going on as in past, prior, before. We have parallels with prior, past, X events. Blasts from the past. Next one, 111 at school, sent on the 2nd of the 10th, is that? I can't quite see. I dropped my daughter at college. Before I drove there, I went down to take my son, his football kit to him, and leave it at reception. En route, there was nothing worth hearing on the radio, so I put a CD on, Simon Fowler's Merrymouth. I played track 4, played track 9, skipped a few. As you do, you know, just randomly driving my son to school. And it was the scene of the dream that I mailed to Steve last week, where I spoke about Orlando, the bomb threat, where my dad was. I backed into a space. I turned towards Bernice, my daughter, as she got to take my son's kit inside the school. The song duration at that very instant was on 111. It was a bit freaky. It seems then the school college theme is hanging around. It's clear to me X's are involved, and now it seems an X with a vengeance, as of the latest mail I sent you, regarding the building with Dream on fire. Could this be telling me that perhaps a former pupil or even disgruntled ex-teacher is going to go to a school or a college, a place of learning, cause carnage? It seems plausible. I'm still looking at the USA. Wait and see. And then it gets weirder. This is the same day. Robbie played his football game I took him his kit for. Afterwards, we drove to Tesco because the missus wanted to get some stuff for tea and whatever. We stayed in the car with Steph and some of the daughter went into the shop. And this Tesco is built on the same place it was written of previously. So, we're sitting in the car and I said to Robbie, put something on, put a CD on. Put the CD on. Played Ocean Colour Scene, a bluesy CD I've got, B-sides. So I told him that when I went to the school earlier, as Bernice got out to go in, it was the CD was on 111 as he went in. And then the school setting took me back to the same dream. So there's this numerology at school again. What's going on here? And as I was telling him, the engine, the CD stopped because so it doesn't run your battery out. So I clicked it back on, and the song had stopped at 111. And I looked at Robbie. Robbie looked at me and said, "Dad, that's too weird." And I said, "Mate." So I wrote at the bottom of this email, "I'm strongly drawn then to a disgruntled ex-pupil or pupils or even a teacher causing carnage at a formal place of learning." Of the same day, I was talking to my son about his football game because he's a really good player and he gets annoyed with his teammates because, you know. So I finished talking to him, driving over to pick Bernice up from college off this same day. So as I drove along, finished talking to my son, I glanced up, very moment, duration of the song was playing was 222. I kid you not, today again, 111, then 111, then 222. Gearing up this is. And I'm talking about it again here. And I'm talking about vengeance, grudge, someone from past. And as I wrote down at the bottom here, I was taking my son to school again. And as I turned down the CD player randomly at that exact moment, a minute from the school, it was on 111. count down 2. So I'm talking about a former disgruntled pupil of a school in America going back and causing carnage. And I've given a date to look at for around the 12th of December. And I gave that date in August. And what happened? That happened. Somebody, who, according to mainstream news at least, went back to a school in America and shot all the kids. And he was a disgruntled former pupil of that school. So, there you go, that's my life, or a little bit of it. Thanks for listening, and don't have nightmares.
Just very briefly, Steve's got some details up on his internet. He's also compiled a book, which is currently with a very big publishers at the moment, which they're looking through, and he's also engaged in a number of meetings to take place over the next few months in regarding numerous different ventures, in regarding more lectures, maybe something for television, and so on and so forth. Just very briefly, you know, people always ask, has Steve tried his best to try and help, stop, let people know? He does this on a regular basis. He's always making the phone calls. I think it was only last week when he rang me and said that you telephoned the anti-terrorist hotline.
Yeah, true.
They put the phone down on it, yeah? And this is the situation that he faces on a regular basis. It's not that he doesn't try and help. He does. People won't take him seriously, and this is the society we live in today. The last radio show that was done was live to Las Vegas, restricted airspace. There's the details. If you punch in that, you'll certainly find Steve's lecture on there, an interview regarding some of the more unusual experiences that he's had. Thank you very much. If anybody's got any questions, okay, from the back.
Anything on this Malaysian aircraft?
I had loads on the Malaysian aircraft. I actually sent a mail the night before it went down saying that I wrote a mail saying that a vision that I'd had of a plane crashing into the sea is a bit worrying. And just as I was talking there about when I was here in New York, this time I kept hearing "Come Fly With Me" by Frank Sinatra. All the mails are logged with Steve. I was talking about aviation, passengers. I kept waking up at 3:40 a.m. and I said to Steve, "Is that a flight number perhaps?" It's all in the emails, it's all logged.
Very close, 370, wasn't it?
And I was talking about out east. I sent another mail called China Crisis, and there's certainly, it's out that way. So yeah, what I saw was a Boeing crash straight into the ocean. That's the rhetoric coming out of mainstream news. Whether it actually has, I wouldn't give an opinion, but yeah. In fact, Alan Dedicoat on BBC Radio 2 read the news about that, and he'd had all that information, so a newsreader knew that was going to happen before it happened, which is a bit trippy for him, I bet.
This gentleman over here.
Is the crisis in Ukraine going to start World War III?
No.
Oh, that was sharp, wasn't it?
I might though.
Gentlemen.
You mentioned that your visions about 9/11 were linked to Islam.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who don't believe that it was Islamic terrorists.
I don't either.
Well, yeah, that's you're making a connection there. But
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Well, the thing,
Or the broadcast.
what I get, what I see, and as you've seen there, when you see mainstream news, they will give you the same information that I have. Whether they're telling you the truth isn't for me to pontificate.
It's like obtaining the broadcasted information.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I just wondered whether it just didn't tie up that if it genuinely wasn't Islamic terrorists,
Mm-hmm.
that you've had warning that it is Islamic terrorists.
Well, I mean, that, for me, what I took from that at that time was an awakening that there's more to this life than this life. And the one thing that I was drawn to the strongest was Islam. I've given up on religion. I don't.
And I've given up talking on 9/11s.
So it's that second question. Did you have anything for the 8th of October 2013?
Probably. Anything specific you're thinking of?
Well, I just asked you, did you have anything?
I couldn't tell you without
Because
looking.
it would have been,
We'd have to go through, I mean,
it was
Yeah.
allegedly going to be big.
right. Well, we've always go
Have a
through.
look.
We are dealing with thousands and thousands of sheets. I hear from Steve every day, actually,
Yeah.
and sometimes 2, 3, 4 times, and in emails per day. Each one is a single sheet of paper printed up. So we'd have to go through. We've got 10 years of this information. So we may have something large.
Something on the scale of 9/11
Oh,
on
okay.
the 8th of October 2013.
Right. Well, I don't recall something significant,
I
but
can't off the top of my head, no.
but we'll certainly look into that. We'll check the paperwork. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes?
Have you got any feelings specifically about tomorrow?
Tomorrow, it's April the 15th. It's the anniversary of Hillsborough.
I'm not going to say, I just wanted to make your opinion. It was just something that was said here last week
Oh,
about something.
Oh, this is about the UFOs coming to stop the wars. All I'll say to that is I'll have a pint of what he drinks.
Anybody else? Okay. Oh, yeah.
Do you know anything about economic crashes?
Economic
crashes?
Do I?
economic crashes.
Well, I was just wondering if there was going to be one imminently.
Well, there's been one, didn't you notice?
A lot of the papers are saying that there's only something even bigger.
I've read the same information. We don't need to have some form of phenomena to work that out. Unfortunately, we can work out that under certain ways of things that are happening, that it's going to be taking a certain path. Unfortunately, there's probably a lot worse times to come. Okay, thank you very much, guys.